afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Are your brains full and your stomachs empty? All right. Well, we're going to get started for our lunch keynote. My name is Ekta Markulier. I'm the Executive Director of the Pike Speak Small Business Development Center, your local SBDC that serves El Paso, Teller, and Park counties. And we are very happy to have assisted our Colorado office in putting this amazing event on for our veterans, which is a true passion of ours at our office. It's in our heart to help them transition, or when they're coming back to retire, to stay here, and their families, because we believe that it is you support the full family of our veterans and our soldiers, and we do that well with our partners PTAC, the MBO office, and the BBB, our MOU partners here. So with that said, it is my pleasure to introduce our very own Secretary of State, Wayne Williams. As Secretary of State, Wayne Williams strives to work with the staff to provide excellent customer service throughout the office. Wayne is committed to ensuring fair, honest, and open election. He's the first Colorado Secretary of State to earn the nationally recognized Certified Elections Registration Administrator designation. Prior to his election as Secretary, Wayne Williams served as our very own El Paso County Clerk and Recorder from 2011 to 2015. He's truly a friend of our community, where he successfully ran elections in the state's most populous country. Wayne?
Okay, it's only the state's most populous county, not quite the country. That extra letter can make a difference. But you know, there are some who may think it's the case. I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank everybody for helping put this together. We're honored to be a part of it. It's not just me. In fact, very little in my office is ever just me. So I have been joined by a number of folks, but they're not at the table. They like migrated so they could actually eat. But I'm joined by a couple of veterans who work in my office and are managers in my office, Abbas Montoya and Mike Watkins, both of whom served in the Marines. Abbas, for some reason in retirement, decided to join the Air National Guard, where, you know, not meaning to insult any Air Force officers, but, you know, they do have better golf courses. I appreciate their service to our nation, but also in my office. They are two of the managers in the office in the business and licensing area. You'll notice that they have a computer over there so you can actually file whatever needs to be filed today. You can make it easy. They make it easy, and if you don't do it today, you can always do it tomorrow or Sunday evening or Christmas Day. Yeah, there are actually people who file business filings on Christmas Day. Some people, I guess, don't really enjoy their in-laws that much, and so, I've got to go file this, I'll be back. If they tell you they'll be back in 6 hours, they weren't just doing a filing, because that takes a couple minutes. We do try to make it easy. When you're establishing a business, government should not be the impediment to that process. And in our office, we're open 24/7. We never close. We're always available for you to make filings, and we do it easily. And the business renewal fees in Colorado are the cheapest in the nation at $10 a year. So that means you can have lots of businesses. In fact, since I've been Secretary of State, we've added over 100,000 new businesses in Colorado. We are up to 691,476 at the moment of this note. Either the end of this month or the end of next month, we will cross the 700,000 threshold. Now, when you figure there's only about 5.5 million people in Colorado, that means, you know, now this is an unusual group, so it's much higher than that here, but if you were at a PTA meeting, 1 out of every 8 people there owns a business. And that's something we strive to do. We make it easy. In fact, we had in Southern Colorado actually a couple call our office in a panic. They had just received notice from the bank that they were not going to proceed with the closing because their paperwork was not in order with the Secretary of State's office. And they called us in a panic from a field in their pickup truck. Being an unusual government agency, we actually answer the phone. We do. That is what we pride ourselves on. In fact, Mike Watkins' group prides themselves on answering that phone, even on the busiest of days. The overwhelming majority go directly to a person. Occasionally it goes to voicemail. We call them back within a couple hours, and that's really what we're trying to do, to make it easy for folks. But they reached us, they called, and we walked them through what they needed to do, and sitting in their pickup truck in a field in rural Colorado, which fortunately at least had internet access, they were able to correct the filings and get everything done, and then call the bank back and said, oh, it's now all in order. And they were able to proceed with the closing. That's what we try to do. We also work in partnership with the Lead School of Business to publish on a regular basis leading economic indicators. And we show a 12-month increase of 117,648 businesses that were formed, and a high level of business confidence as we go into the remainder of this year. That's what we're trying to do. And my goal is to make it so you can always do business with us and that we're never the impediment, and we try to make it easy. For those of you involved in the nonprofit community, we have free training for nonprofit board of directors on our website. We also handle things like elections. Some of you may read more about us in that context. But the business and licensing group is actually bigger in terms of personnel, and certainly in terms of economic impact, than our elections division. And so we also make it easy to vote. We passed the 2 millionth online voter registration. You can go to govotecolorado.com. Some of you may have seen some news coverage earlier this week from the Pioneers Museum, where we launched the You Choose campaign, where you have the ability as an unaffiliated voter for the first time to cast a vote in primaries here in El Paso County and throughout the state. And so we continue to try to make that easy. We're delighted to be a partner with a number of entities that came together to put this together. But most importantly, we're delighted to be there to serve you, because that's really our job. And we don't exist to be a government. We exist to serve the people of Colorado. If there is any way that we can help, please let us know. My business cards are over there. They're unusual for a government official because they have my personal cell phone on them. If you ever need to reach me, since I live here in Colorado Springs and my office is in Denver, to beat traffic, I usually leave somewhere around 6 in the morning, so 6:30 is kind of a really good sweet spot to reach me, because my 4 kids are still asleep at that time. I can't call them, and so I'm usually free. So if you ever need to reach me, if there's any way we can help, please do that. Thank you again for being part of this great event. Thank you for serving our nation. Thank you for serving our community and your small businesses. And again, if there's any way we can help, please let us know. Thank you.
Bring this down a little bit from Wayne's level. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Secretary of State Office for sponsoring the Colorado SBDC Network and our 11th Annual Veterans Conference. Next, I would like to introduce our lunch keynote, Jessica Fialkovich. Fialkovich is a certified business intermediary and the president of Transworld Business Advisors, also a sponsor of the Colorado SBDC Network. As Transworld's president, she oversees strategic planning and marketing initiatives while providing overall management support for the company. After over a decade of buying, building, and selling successful businesses in the wine and spirits and retail industries in Colorado and Florida, Jessica established Transworld to employ her passion for and experience in small business. Jessica?
All right, a little bit taller there. How's everybody doing this afternoon? Happy for lunch? Well, thank you for having me here today. As introduced, my name is Jessica Fialkovich. I own Transworld Business Advisors. We're a business brokerage firm. So what we do is we help people buy and sell companies. And today I'm here to talk to you about entrepreneurship and specifically in the veteran community. So I'm going to start with a little story. So my grandfather was born in 1921 in Walton, New York. When he was 4 years old, he moved to Morrisville, Pennsylvania, where I was also born and raised, is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and spent his childhood actually hanging out at this pharmacy, Pryor's drugstores. And at that time, the pharmacies still had the soda fountain counters and ice creams, and it was his favorite thing to do when he was a little kid. And every day after school, he was at Pryor's Drugs. So after he graduated high school, he joined the Navy at 20 years old, and he was stationed at Pearl Harbor. And as luck had it, he was stationed as a pharmacist assistant on the hospital ship, which kind of also furthered his interest in pharmacy. So he went from just loving the pharmacy because of the soda pop to now actually enjoying what he was doing as a pharmacist. He spent the duration of World War II in the Pacific at that specific post, so he was a pharmacist assistant the entire time. When he came back, he actually went and he talked to Mr. Pryor, and he said, you know, I have some pharmacy experience now and I really love your store. What I'd love to do is I would love to have your job. And he offered to purchase Pryor's drugs from him, and Mr. Pryor accepted at that time. So he ran the single location for about 10 years, and then he opened this location 10 years later down the street in Washington's Crossing and named it Palmer's Pharmacy, which is my maiden name, and also a lot easier to say than Fialkovich. So he was like 50% of World War II veterans. Over 50% of World War II veterans came back and became entrepreneurs. My grandfather actually ran both pharmacies until he was in his early 50s, and then sold both pharmacies right before CVS and Eckert's got popular, which was very positive for my family. Otherwise, it would have been more challenging. So veteran-owned businesses, my grandfather's story is not unique. Like I said, over 50% of World War II veterans came back and became entrepreneurs after their service. And Korean War veterans, it was over 40%. So what that's done for our economy is generate 2.52 million businesses that are owned by veterans, and they employ over 5.8 million people today. They also account for $1.14 trillion in gross revenue, and they're 30% more likely to create jobs for returning military members. The businesses are also likely to last longer. So I don't know if you know this, but starting a business is very hard. Sustaining a business is even harder. Less than 10% of businesses that are started actually make it to their 10th anniversary, but research shows us that veteran-owned businesses survive longer. And women veteran-owned businesses are one of the fastest growing segments. So they grew 4 times faster than traditional businesses between 2007 and 2012. But we have some alarming trends in the future. Recent research shows us that since 9/11, only 4.5% of returning military members choose entrepreneurship as a career. That's also trending down, so that's an average since September 11th, 2001, and the average trends down every single year. So 12.3% in 1996, down to 5.6% in 2014, and the 4.5% number was from 2016. So total new owners since 2001, or total new entrepreneurs entering the community, is only 162,000. Baby boomers generate most of our businesses and most of our small business revenue right now in the United States. So while baby boomers own about 50% of all small businesses, in the veterans community, 74% of all the veteran-owned businesses have owners that are 55 years of age or older. Well, what we do know is that at some point those people want to retire. Might be tomorrow, might be in 10 years, but at some point they will. And what we have is a massive gap. So total businesses to transition over the next 5 to 15 years is 1.86 million. And with only 162,000 new entrepreneurs since 2001, and if that percentage keeps going down every year, we're not adding that much more. There's a massive gap of businesses that need to transition over the next 15 years. And that also puts about 4.3 million jobs at stake. And why it's relevant to this room is because, remember I said veteran-owned businesses are 30% more likely to employ other veterans. So a quote from Inc. magazine recently in 2016 said, "Beyond the economic and job creation problem, the recent decline in new veteran businesses creates a vicious cycle for returning military personnel. Fewer veteran-founded companies means fewer jobs for veterans and fewer employers who can create the sort of business and psychological environments most comfortable for those returning from warfare." So what are the reasons for decline? There's three general trends that we see in our business and we see holistically in the small business community. One, startup financing still tends to be challenging, and that doesn't matter if you're veteran, non-veteran, any entrepreneur that's looking for funding for a brand new business, it's still a challenging environment to acquire capital. The perceived stability of a job. We're in a very good economy right now. Everybody knows we have an extremely low unemployment rate in the state, which is great. But are jobs stable? When I began my career, I worked for one of the largest and most successful real estate developers in the country. And somebody decided to fund almost our entire project by a company called Lehman Brothers. Well, our project and company pretty much folded overnight in September 2008 because of one person's decision. So now I put my trust in myself to direct my career path and my financial future, and I believe that that is more stable than a job that some guy on the 50th floor in New York City made a decision that affected mine and everyone else's future. And the third is a change in industry. I think it's easier than ever to start a business in our society, but it's also more complex. Gone are the days where a veteran can move from running a platoon to running a manufacturing line. Now we have to deal with technology and global markets, and there's a lot more to do and a lot more to learn as an entrepreneur. So what's next? Like I mentioned, we're about to face the biggest transition of wealth and businesses in our lifetime. It's not an if, but a when, and a when being in the next 5 to 15 years. We just can't nail down a specific date when they'll all retire. The baby boomers ready to transition is going to give ample opportunities to both purchase profitable businesses and businesses that are ripe for a turnaround. Capital for acquisitions, unlike capital for startup, is more accessible than ever. The SBA has some great programs for acquisition financing for businesses. I get a call from a new banker literally every single day wanting to fund business acquisitions. And government contracts are favorable for vets, women, and minorities, which I know you guys learned a little bit more about this morning. All the trends are set up to help this transition and to support small business in Colorado and the US. So some things you can do. Not everyone sitting in this room is an entrepreneur. It takes a certain type of crazy person to want to run their own business. Like many people say, entrepreneurs are the only people willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid a 9-to-5 job, which is 40 hours if you do the math. But if you are an entrepreneur, embrace it. Have the drive, take the chance, build your dream. There's never been a better time in history on this planet to be an entrepreneur. The barriers to entry are very low and our resources are at an all-time high. But if you're not an entrepreneur, that's okay too. We can't all be. But support entrepreneurs and support small businesses. You can invest in a small business. You can coach a small business owner. You can volunteer at a nonprofit or an organization like the SBDC that supports entrepreneurs and business owners. Be an emotional support for a spouse, friend, or family member that's going through starting their own business. It's a very emotional process. And at the very, very least, shop every day at small businesses and veteran-owned businesses in your community. I'd like to finish up with a quote from Dawn Halfacker. She's a veteran and owner of Halfacker Association, a consulting group. In my mind, there is no question that my military training has helped me become a better entrepreneur. You go through so much in the military, but really what the military is teaching you is how to be resilient. You plan a mission and then you execute, but nothing ever goes according to plan. Your job is to continue to lead in not ideal circumstances. I can't sum up entrepreneurship better. Thank Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for attending today. Thank you for your service to our community and our country. And if you have any questions, please feel free to talk to me afterwards. I'm also teaching a session on becoming an entrepreneur right after lunch at 1 o'clock. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your lunch.
Well, this is time now just to have some lunch, network. You can talk now. I know you're dying to talk to each other. Meet your neighbors and visit all of our amazing resource partners here. They're here to support you as you start and you grow your business. Our sponsor tables, Transworld, Secretary of State, Colorado Enterprise Fund, they're all here to help you grow your business and answer your questions. Remember, we do have one-on-one consulting happening all day today, so please sign up at our SBDC table for that. We have a number of consultants here. How many of you are consultants with SBDC? Can you just raise your hand? We've got quite a few people. Yep, so on either side of our room here. We've got Abram, our director of our Denver Metro office here, and then director of our Pueblo office, Southern Colorado, Caroline was here as well. So please network, have fun, finish your lunch, and we will return back to breakout session 3 at 1 o'clock. We will end the program and conference in your breakout sessions. So we'll end right at 2:15 p.m. Hopefully I will have a chance to talk to you throughout the day. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon after you finish your last workshop, okay? Thank you so much. I forgot something.